Sometimes Brandon's job is super annoying. Like, because my feelings are my feelings. They're going to be valid no matter what. So when Brandon's like instantly like, well, let's do the math and let's this. And I'm like, no, 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 no. Like, let's stop all that. Like, don't financial advisor me right now.
Don't financial advisor me.
What I'm trying to tell you is like, this is the number that I want, and this is what's going to make me feel good.
Sugar Daddy Podcast, yo. Learn how to make them pockets grow. Financial freedom's where we go. Smart investments, money flow.
Welcome back to the Sugar Daddy Podcast. Thank you for joining us today. We are the podcast that helps you put a clear plan in place for your money so you can feel confident and in control of your money. If you've been here before, welcome back. And if you're new, thank you for joining. Babe, what are we talking about today?
So today we are talking about how couples argue about money without actually talking about money.
Ooh, and we've had some therapists on, some financial therapists, and one of them in particular talked about this and how it shows up in relationships. But we had planned this episode, and then a few days ago, I had like a moment. And so it's actually perfect timing because we all do it. Now, some
Yes.
of us do it more than others. And obviously, Brandon and I talk about money all the time.
But we're not immune from the same things that happen to other people necessarily.
No, listen, life is expensive. I was laid off. We have 2 young kids. We have a lot of expenses. Like, life is lifing for everybody. So just because we have a financial literacy podcast and Brandon is a licensed financial planner does not mean that we don't have moments where we're like, wow. So I had one of those I had one of
I
those
don't think I'll make
moments.
that sound ever, but I
No,
know what you
but
mean.
like we're not, yeah, like you said, we are not immune. And so we wanted to talk about kind of how this shows up in your home or in your relationship and how we want you to take a step back and be like, wait a minute. Is this really about the dishwasher? Is this really about the soccer registration fees? Like, what is it really about? Because there is an underlying reason. So today we're going to help you figure out what that underlying reason is and how these things might be showing up in your relationship. So we're going to give a couple examples. We'll tell you our most recent example. And then we're going to get into our dream framework, which if you're new here and you have not heard about our dream framework, stay tuned because it is so good. And we are so happy to be helping have these conversations because they can be really tough for people. So if you are, having conversations that are like, you never help around the house, well, okay, maybe that is rooted in something else, right?
Yeah. Rarely ever is it the specific chore that you're not helping out with that is the root cause of the issue. That
Yeah,
is
like you
not it.
never do laundry. Could be. I'm carrying more of the financial and emotional load and you're making me feel invisible.
Yes, because I mean, that's also even at sometimes working through if you're earlier on in your relationship as compared
Mm.
to if you've been together for a few years. Because I've even learned that, from early on in our relationship when it comes to household chores and stuff of that nature, it is more of the emotional load and the decision making process behind it as well.
Yeah, it's just a lot. Like it is just a lot. If you're fighting over things like, the lights are always on. Why do you keep touching the thermostat? You're taking showers that are 40 minutes. Like you need to shorten your shower. Like if you're constantly bickering over like those small household costs, because they do add up,
Yes.
obviously, maybe the real conversation behind that is, I don't really trust your judgment with money. And these small things prove that I can't trust you.
Yeah, especially in a scenario where one spouse is making more or significantly more than the other, because, like, for example, Jess makes more than I do. So she carries
Not
more.
right now because I'm unemployed.
Yes.
I did get a job offer on Friday, though. I don't
Yes.
know when we're releasing this episode, but hopefully by the time you're listening to it, I will be gainfully employed again.
But, with Jess making more, then she carries more of the household burden from a financial standpoint.
Yeah.
So, with these, in a scenario where you have these small little things that we're bickering about over these small charges, it might not be necessarily the small charges. It's more the grand picture of, I feel financially responsible for this stuff and it's starting to become a burden. And we don't have a solid plan in place to make sure that we are okay currently and we're okay in the future as far as where we're moving.
Absolutely. One of my favorite things, one of our favorite things is planning vacations. But you might be in a scenario where you're planning a vacation and your partner is always shutting it down. They're always like, "No, we can't talk about that right now." Maybe the real fear is scarcity, right? A lot of us have a scarcity mindset. So if there is scarcity coming from one partner, then that's going to build resentment that you are, planning for things that might seem frivolous to one person, but are really like important to you because maybe you're the person that's like, this is how we connect. This is how we unwind. This is how, we talk about future plans and goals. Like we don't get a chance to do that at home because we're so busy. So for you, it's more than a vacation, but for your partner, it's just financial burden and stress because they're coming from a place of scarcity.
Yeah, I mean, we've had episodes in the past where we talk about, the difference in how your upbringing is.
Hmm.
If you're somebody that grew up and your family never went on vacations
Mm,
because you didn't have the money or you were just wasn't a priority,
yeah.
then that's completely different than someone who did grow up on going on great vacations.
Yeah.
And maybe you guys haven't talked about that and figured out, hey, why are we so polar opposite and where is that rooted from? Because
Hmm.
you can have somebody that grows up, with not a lot of money and they're still going to have the same scarcity mindset even if their finances are okay, and you can have another person who grew up with not a lot of money and they're now overspending.
Yeah, yeah, you
It-
can go in two different directions.
you never know, but if you're not actually having a conversation about what the root issue is,
Mhm.
then you're never going to actually figure that out.
Right. Yeah, it's so true. Gifting, right? Gifting comes up. You've got Valentine's Day, you've got birthdays, you've got Christmas. If you are associating value, monetary value to the types of gifts you're getting from your partner, and maybe they're not meeting your expectations, that can be the source of an argument.
Yeah, and it's not even necessarily. I would say like obviously there's a value attached to it, but it's not even necessarily a monetary value. It's maybe the
Hmm.
thought behind the gift in of itself. Because
Right.
like I would say that like that's something that I also had to learn in regards to our
Yeah, like that
relationship.
one year when my stocking was empty.
Yes,
Yeah.
because I grew up like we got gifts, but it wasn't a huge thing in our household. So like for me personally, I gotta appreciate a good gift, but like I think
That is
that
not your love
no,
language.
it's not. As
And
far as
it's not
receiving,
mine either.
yeah,
But
but
I am a Taurus and I want the thought and effort behind it.
yes, it wasn't
Yes.
that, oh, you didn't buy me this expensive thing. It was
No.
like, I'm working hard in my career. I'm working hard to take care of this family. I do all this, and that.
I
And
decorated
I
the house for
and
Christmas.
I
I've been
didn't get
baking all the
this.
cookies, all the things,
Yes.
and now I'm sitting here on Christmas morning and I have literally nothing in my stocking.
Yes.
And I was disappointed.
Yes.
That has never happened again.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because we talked about what it was.
Yeah.
It wasn't like she like I said when we had the issue, she didn't say like, "Oh, you didn't get me this expensive gift." She said, "I don't feel valued."
Right.
So you could have got she's like, you could have gotten me anything and I didn't
Hmm.
and I just didn't feel valued. And you have to be able to listen to your partner,
Yeah.
take that constructive criticism, and if you love them and you want to make them happy and move forward in a better direction,
Hmm.
take the advice and do what you're supposed to do with it.
Yeah. There was one year, I think it was my 39th birthday, which I like presents are not my love language. Our love language together is quality time. And we like to spend quality time on vacation. So that is where we spend our money. So for Christmas, Brandon and I know we're going to just do stocking stuffers,
Yeah.
right? Especially now because we started a new tradition of traveling with the kids for Christmas. So, like, even them, we're getting accustomed to, like, no, 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 the trip is the gift. So, do not expect to have, this huge pile of presents underneath. The present is the flight, the hotel, the big old pool, going to the beach, all those things. But there was one year where Brandon just he fumbled the ball. He knows what he did. He's not done it again. He came correct the next year. But again, it wasn't about the money, but it was about, how I feel like I'm pouring into all parts of my life at all times. And then nobody is pouring back into me. And so that's what I really had to explain to him is that when this happens, this is how it makes me feel. It's not about you didn't spend this amount of money. it's you didn't put thought into X, Y, and Z.
Yes.
And so the last example that I'll give is the other day, I just very randomly out of the blue, we weren't even like sitting and having a money meeting. We were like crossing paths in the hallway. And I was like, I want to save $100,000. And he was like, whoa, where did that come from? And I basically just started rambling. But the point of that was I have now been the quote unquote victim of layoffs, 2 layoffs in 2 years. I was laid off in 2024. And then most recently in March of 2026. And I'm in a very volatile industry. I'm in tech, right? So the first time I was laid off, that was my first time ever in life being laid off. And it did come as a surprise, even though I was working for a company that notoriously did 2 big layoffs a year, especially in the United States. But like I didn't see it coming. I ended up with like a 6-month garden leave. That was actually quite lovely. And I realized after that that like I want us to have more money in savings, not only so that we have the security of me not having to find a job so quickly because I am the higher earner. I also hold our health insurance. Um, but also I'm tired, y'all. Like I'm tired, and if and or when, because I'm honestly planning for when another layoff happens, I think it's better to plan for the worst, expect the best. I don't want to have to immediately go and look for another job. I don't want to feel like I have to go and be the provider right the next day, or within 30 days or whatever. Like I want a buffer and I want breathing room and I want to be able to come up for air and I want to just take a pause.
Yeah. So when this was the planner in me is when she said $100,000, I was like, where's this number coming from?
Yeah.
Like, what does this number represent? And really what it was
I
is
was like, it's a year of expenses.
yeah.
And he was like, no, it's not. That's not our number.
Yeah. So basically really what it was is that all the things that you just said in regards to the potential of another layoff, feeling less stressed,
Mhm.
feeling more secure, she wanted to increase our emergency savings
Yeah.
and make sure that we have a year's worth of expenses now.
Yeah.
And that's what we're going to increase it to. Is we're now part of our goal is increasing our emergency fund to 12 months worth of expenses. And that wasn't $100,000, but like you said, talking through it and
Yeah.
finding out specifically what it was that, she really wanted to address, we were able to come to an agreement on what it is that we're looking to accomplish and then start working on that.
Yeah. And just, I don't, because it might matter in my head, it's not an additional $100,000. It's getting our current emergency savings to $100,000. But yeah, I had a moment of like panic and overwhelm, and I needed to like let that out. And then he kind of brought me back and he was like, okay, well, that's not 12 months. So, like, again, where did you get that number from? And then that's when I explained, well, I want a buffer. I want to be able to come up for air for, a month or 60 days before even needing to like think about the job search, or very lightly tap my foot in and like maybe apply to 1 to 2 jobs a week, which, in this day and age, I mean, there's LinkedIn posts where people are like, I've been unemployed for a year and I've applied to 4,000 jobs, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, people are going hard, right? So for me, it was more of a security thing. But again, I said a number, but there was so much underneath the hood that we needed to get to of and this wasn't an argument, but let's, for the sake of this episode, what this argument was about. My argument was we need $100,000 in savings. And Brandon was like, let's take a step back and let's figure out where you got that number from. So there's always an undertone, there's always subtext, and it's our responsibility as a couple to figure out where your partner's subtext is coming from.
Yeah. And obviously in that scenario, I was a little bit more equipped to deal with it because of what I do for a living. And
Yeah.
I'm always like, if you're coming up with a random number out of the blue, what does this number represent? Is it an accurate number of what you're trying to accomplish?
Which, to be clear, just for anybody listening, and again, we've never wanted to paint ourselves as a perfect couple or anything like that. Sometimes Brandon's job is super annoying. Like, because my feelings are my feelings. They're going to be valid no matter what. So when Brandon's like instantly like, well, let's do the math and let's this. And I'm like, no, 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 no. Like, let's stop all that. Like, don't financial advisor me right now.
Don't financial
what
advisor
I'm
me.
what I'm trying to tell you is like this is the number that I want and this is what's going to make me feel good. Now, he does obviously have a point because a lot of times the number in the bank is largely uncorrelated to how we actually feel about money, right? So like maybe it's $100,000 and then I'm like, no, that's still not enough. Now we got to bump it up again, right? So like our feelings and the number in the bank don't always correlate. So it is good to just take a step back and for him to walk me through that. But sometimes in the moment, his logical financial advisor brain does not work for me. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Maybe that's a like couples 401's like a psychologist or a therapist.
Oh, I'm sure. Oh my gosh. Like, don't therapize me right now.
Therapize?
Yeah, don't counsel me. And so really we need to like decode what is being said, right? It's like whether it's you go to Target too much. Okay, like, well, what does that mean? Like, I'm buying household things. I'm not going shopping. I'm not coming home with new clothes. Like, I'm replacing the kids' shoes, whatever it is. Like, let's talk about what you're actually saying when you're saying you spend too much money. You go to Target too much. You spent too much at the grocery store. Like, what is that actually saying? And the therapist that we had on, we'll actually link the episode in the show notes. She suggested that when you have those moments, and they come up for all of us, right? But when you have those moments, take the thing that you spent money on out of the sentence.
Yeah.
Right? Which is difficult because if you're saying things like, you spend too much money at Target, and now you're taking out the Target, you're like, okay, what is actually behind the you spend too much money? Is it a scarcity? Is it that you're maybe unaware of the budget? Maybe one person is lacking visibility and money is a little bit tighter than you anticipated. Like, there's so many things that, again, could be under the hood. If you take the thing out of the sentence that you're arguing about, that's going to help you get to that underneath layer.
And the one like you bringing up that's a very good point because
Why, thank you.
recently, multiple times with couples, with one, I'm gonna say in these scenarios, it was more often the wife was a little bit more stressed about the finances was due to a lack of visibility and
Mm,
kind of being able to see on like a month to month basis what they have coming in,
hmm.
what's going out, and where it's going.
Yeah.
And so like recently, like we've talked about this time and time again, and we're gonna, continue to, push it. Monarch Money. I recently got a client of mine to implement the Monarch Money because I think being able to simply see very clearly in green and red, like if you have your money coming in the green, you have money going out in the red, and are you spending more than you have coming in, or do you have a surplus at the end of the month?
Hmm.
And just simply being able to see that changed how she felt dramatically.
Yeah. Well, and we've had that and we've talked openly about that, right? Because again, I am a corporate girly. I work a 9 to 5. I have a W-2. My paycheck, for the most part, aside from like bonuses or whatever, are going to be the same every 2 weeks. Yours as a business owner, you're bringing on new clients. Sometimes you're ramping people off. Like your money varies. You also have your business expenses, so you're getting money from your clients, but it also costs money to do what you do and to use the tools that you use, et cetera, et cetera. So for me, like that my paycheck is going to be X every 2 weeks, but your paycheck was like, it's just up and down, right? Like sometimes you have excellent months, sometimes you have maybe like a little bit of a lull. And so we now are at a point where I know exactly what Brandon's bringing in, what his monthly expenses are, and what to expect of what he's putting back into the business versus what's coming back into our household. And so that was a visibility gap that we had for a while. And what I'll say about that, for anybody who hasn't listened to some of those past episodes, is when it was just the two of us, it didn't bother me. Like, I didn't care. We were fine. Our money was our money. But then we started adding kids, and our
Yes.
money became our kids' money, right? Because it was like daycare and diapers, and they're growing out of
Just
their
added
clothes,
expenses.
and all the registrations, and the this, and the teacher appreciation, and all of that. And he was lacking visibility into how much money I was spending maintaining the kids' things, doing things for school, all those little things add up. Like, oh, we're having our Easter egg classroom party. We're having a Valentine's Day. Okay, so now I'm buying cookies, I'm buying drinks, I'm buying this. We're doing little trinkets. It's not a ton of money, but now we're doing it for 2 classes.
Yeah, no, all
Where
that stuff adds up with
it adds
kids,
up. It
especially
adds up.
in the scenarios where I would say a bulk of those everyday expenses for the kids, buying new clothes, buying new shoes, new backpack, whatever it may be,
Swim lessons, soccer
often falls on
registration. Yeah.
often falls on the
Birthday
mom.
parties. Yeah. It's so much. And so I was seeing all the money coming out, or going out rather, for all the things kid related. And Brandon wasn't processing it because he wasn't the one doing it. Right. So we had to have kind of a sit down and realign. And so I do think we talk about this a lot on our episodes, but your phases of life, right? If you're going from single to partnered, partnered to married, married to with kids, like those expenses, the way you're operating, the way you're paying bills, it will change.
Yeah.
And so you might have to have those conversations because we were fine before we had kids. And then I started feeling more and more overwhelmed with the lack of visibility once we had kids. And you just have to get to a point where you can start verbalizing that and be really clear with your partner. But I think a lot of things are monetarily are tied to how you grew up with money, your feelings around money, your identity around money, right? Like even though I've been the higher earner in our relationship for a long time, Brandon's identity as a man and a father and a husband is not tied to how much money he makes because he knows he brings so much value to our family in so many other ways. But I have a lot of friends who are in relationships where the man does not feel that way. And we can call it insecure or whatever, like we're not going to label it here. It is very likely tied to how you grew up with money, maybe how your family that you grew up in was structured, maybe your dad was the breadwinner, your mom was maybe the stay-at-home mom. Like there's all different kinds of
Also, the
reasons
societal norms.
and the societal norms. There's so many reasons why we feel the way we feel about money. But that's why we created the dream framework, and the D in dream stands for dive, because the first thing you need to do is to dive in to understand how your partner feels about money. How do you feel about money? What are things that you grew up with? What are things that you heard growing up? And have that conversation. Because if you're operating from an abundance mindset and your partner's operating from a scarcity mindset, hello, clash, you're always going to butt heads
Yeah.
because one person wants to quote unquote spend and the other person wants to hoard,
Yeah.
right? Um, the R in dream stands for reflect because, again, how you grew up with money, the things you heard about money, the memories, maybe the traumas you have around money, those things are going to show up in your life right now. They are showing up in your relationship. And if you don't take a minute to reflect on how that's showing up, is it showing up as abundance? Is it showing up as scarcity? Is it showing up as fear? Then you're not going to be able to work through it. So you have to understand, how is it actually showing up in your life right now, in your relationship right now? So we're diving, we're reflecting.
Yeah, because if you are not taking that time for you to understand one, yourself,
Hmm.
and then, understand where maybe some of the negative things that you're showing in your financial life, where that's coming from, you're never going to be able to fix that and improve and move forward. You
Right.
have to understand what the problem is and what the root of that problem is before you can make any changes.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't fix it if you're not aware of it. I mean, that's the bottom line, right? The E in dream stands for engage, because now that you've dove into your past, and your partner's done the same, you've reflected, maybe you've taken some notes, maybe you're journaling, whatever that looks like for you. Now you're engaging with your partner. Now you're having the conversation of like, here's what I heard my parents say. Oh, we had our lights turned off every other month. Like, I am really terrified about, our utility bills because of this. I didn't come from a home where I had, a stable food option. Like, I only got to eat meals at school. I never had consistent meals at home. Like, people have stories, people have baggage, people have trauma And if you do not understand where your partner is coming from and where their money mindset was formed and how it was shaped and why, you're never going to be able to understand them. And you need to, when it comes to money and your partner and your relationship in general, you have to be empathetic.
Yes.
And learning your partner's stories, learning why they are the way they are in life and with their money will help you be more empathetic. So that when, and I've given this example before, when Brandon takes 3 months to buy a pair of sunglasses, and I'm like, oh my gosh, just buy them already. Well, I know how he grew up with money. I know who his mom is
The
and
funny
how
part is
she
I
is
didn't
with
grow up
money.
poor.
No, but you act like you did. But again, like knowing those things helps you understand, like, you know what? It's going to take Brandon for anything that costs over $150, it's going to take him minimum 45 days to make a decision. And he's going to look up the prices. He's going to be scrolling in bed. He's going to look for alternatives. He's going to wait for the sale. He's going to wait for the coupon. Fine. If that's what he wants to do, go do that. But like, because I know who he is, I now know that that is just what he's going to do.
Yeah. And also, even just, one other example from our own personal experience is that, I was fortunate enough to grow up and my mom paid for my brother and I to go to college. We both had like some scholarships, whether it be academic or athletic, but then the remaining balance my mom paid off. And for Jess had to pay her own way through school.
Not according to my dad, but we
Yeah.
had to clear that up.
And, so initially when we came together and we're talking about planning for our family and for our kids, I was of the mindset we're going to pay for our kids, help them so that they don't have to have student loans. And she was like, why wouldn't they not have student loans? And it's not even a matter of like, it wasn't a matter of like she just adamantly disagreed with me or I
Mm-mm.
disagreed with her. It's just that we had different experiences from upbringing and we had different quote unquote norms of how we thought about that. But then when we talked through it, I was able to find out more about just a scenario in
Mm-hmm.
regards to that. And we actually are now on the same page as far as like wanting to help our children not have student loans. And like I said, we had to talk through it and find out the root of, why we thought the way that we thought.
Right. Well, and I think too, what you said is critical, right? You kind of assumed that we would cover our kids' college. And I kind of assumed, well, if they don't get scholarships, then they'll just take out loans. And like, not saying that we wouldn't help them with it or whatever, but like, because of what we experienced, we make assumptions. And
Yes.
you cannot make assumptions because neither one of you are mind readers. And you need to just be clear and direct. We have been together for a long time now.
Almost, it'll be 13 years in October.
Yay. And listen, he still cannot read my mind. A lot. Sometimes it happens. Sometimes I'm like, oh, that was good. Good job, babe. But most of the time, listen, I just don't have time or energy or capacity to want you to assume what's going on in my head. So I just need to be direct about it. And I expect him to do the same because I don't want to guess. And it's so much easier to just be direct and to
Yes.
set expectations clearly than to hope and wish and pray that your partner is going to like magically know how you feel or what you want done or how you wanted that to go, etc. Don't do that.
No.
Don't do that. It's
Don't be
just not
like,
going to
oh,
happen.
I shouldn't have to say it. You should just know. Like, no.
No, don't.
No,
Mm-mm.
that's on either side. That's setting the other person up for failure.
Yeah. Like I want like that I wanted you to want to unload the dishwasher. Like nobody wants to unload the dishwasher. If you want him to unload the dishwasher, ask him to unload the dishwasher. Nobody wants to do it, you know? So, yeah, be direct. We've got a couple more letters in dream. So, DRE, now we're at the A. You have to act, right? So, whether that is taking action to get more visibility and getting a tool like Monarch, so that you both have access to what's going on, what's coming in, what's going out, etc. Whether that is, let's increase our savings rate, like we talked about. Like, I want more money in savings because I'm in a volatile industry and if and when I get laid off again, I want more breathing room, right?
Yes.
So, like having that conversation, whatever it is for you, you have to put a plan in place. The money's not going to just magically appear. I know, for example, that in order to hit this goal that is important to me, we will need to make sacrifices, right? So, maybe that's, and I haven't been getting my nails done really, but like something simple as, okay, I'm not going to get pedicures for the remainder of the year, or I'm not going to, XYZ. I'm not going to buy what's in my Amazon cart. Like whatever whatever it is, you're going to have to make a plan to reach those goals, you know? So you're going to have to actually sit down and figure out what that looks like for you. And then the M stands for manage because things change, right? Maybe you get a raise, maybe you get a promotion. Now you can hit that goal faster. Maybe you got a windfall, maybe you can pay off some debt faster. Maybe one of you can look for a new job to help accelerate some of that stability that you feel like is lacking in the financial relationship that you have. There's so many options of, what needs to be done for what scenario. But the point is, it's not going to do it by itself. Like you have to put the plan in place and then you have to manage it.
Yes. Because normally it's easier to have the fight about the superficial thing
Mm-hmm.
than really have a deep conversation about what the actual issue is.
Yeah.
And the purpose of
Getting
the
to the
yes,
root.
and the purpose of the dream framework is so that you are starting to avoid those superficial fights
Yeah.
and actually having that real conversation so that you get to the root of the real issue, put a plan in place and move forward in a better direction.
Yeah, absolutely. We actually created a guide for couples to have dream money conversations. So we will link that here. We will give it to you for free for being a listener, although typically we sell it. So we'll put that link in the show notes. But really, y'all, it always comes back down to communication. It really like have open, honest, transparent, raw, emotional, empathetic conversations. Like you're going to have to be vulnerable. You're going to have to say the things that maybe make you a little uncomfortable because a lot of times this is rooted in I'm scared that. What if this, right? Like for me, it's I'm scared that I will get laid off and I will have to go right back to work or right back into the job search instead of being able to take a breath. And I'll tell you, I'm super busy even now that I'm not working full time. Like there's always something to do. So I know that if and when something happens, it's good to have a buffer, right? And it's good to have, listen, that kind of money gives you options, right? So whether you're in a toxic work environment, whether you maybe want to extend your maternity leave, whatever it is, like having a cushion, whatever that looks like for you, is always going to help you sleep better at night. It just will.
Yeah. And moving on, in regards to some of the things that you should start to implement and be aware of is that you do have to be able to maybe recognize when you are having these quote unquote negative behaviors in a fight
Yeah,
and be able to actually, acknowledge that what's currently happening and make a plan to change and pivot so that you can have better conversations. So like, you might be in the middle of a fight and you might want to just go ahead and pause and be like, hey, like, are we actually really talking about what the issue is?
right.
Or are we trying to have the easier, superficial fight and not actually addressing the real issue? So being able to pause in the moment and decide, are we actually talking about what we need to be talking about?
Right. Yeah. I mean, that pause and then saying, like, what am I actually feeling in this moment? What am I actually afraid of in this moment? Like, are you having thoughts around lack of security, lack of control, maybe lack of inequity or fairness in your home? We had a whole episode on that with Eve Rodsky, who I think is amazing. Are we talking about respect? Are we talking about feeling loved? I mean, there's so much that goes into a relationship, a happy relationship, and money a lot of times is kind of the catalyst or the trigger for these conversations, but there is something underlying. So take a breath, take a pause and figure out what am I actually feeling in this moment? Because I'm not upset about the dishwasher or the thermostat or the Target run. It's something deeper, right? So definitely process that. And then maybe change the script, right? Instead of saying like, you never do this, you never do that, I always have to this, you could say, I'm not upset about the dishwasher. I'm actually feeling this about our finances, or about how we're splitting chores, or about how I have to use my time at home versus how you get to use your time at home. I'll give you an example. Brandon very rarely asks me about going to the gym. Sometimes he does, like if we have a busy day, but most of the time he assumes he's going to the gym. Whereas I internalize all the things that have to be done around the house, and I always sacrifice myself in that sense, and I get done what I feel needs to get done in the home, right? And if famously, Michelle Obama was like, it's not my responsibility to do the laundry when there's two of us in this home. So I'm also going to go to the gym, right? Like she basically was like, I'm upset that that Barack always goes to the gym and I'm sitting here doing the laundry. And she's like, wait a minute, let me do a reframe and we can both do the laundry when we get back from the gym, right? So like if Michelle Obama is having this conversation, then we can definitely have that conversation, right? But like it's one of those things like we all prioritize different things. I prioritize a clean, empty laundry room. Not that that happens often, but I was getting upset with Brandon about like always making time for himself to go to the gym, even though when I stop, take a breath, reframe, if I did the same, he would never say anything negative about it. Right. So it's really not me being upset with him. It's me being upset with myself because I'm prioritizing so many other things instead of I'm going to go to the gym for an hour. So whatever that situation is for you, take a step back and really think about like, what am I actually upset about? Because you're going to peel back the layers and you're going to come to a very different conclusion than the gym or the dishwasher or the Target bill, you know?
And I would also say, with that, schedule the actual time to talk about the money issue. So
Hmm.
schedule a date to have your money conversation because one, you don't want to do it in the heat of an argument where emotions are high
No.
because I understand 100% that, there's a lot of emotions attached to people's money, but what you really want to do from a planning standpoint is actually look not at the emotional aspect, look at the logical aspect of the numbers and talk through it, and that's extremely hard to do in the heat of the moment.
Yes.
So,
Yeah. And you never, listen, out of all the things you don't want to talk about when you're heated and stressed is money.
yes.
Like, just take a minute. The money, whether it's good or bad or ugly, it's still going to be that way when you schedule the money date.
And you also want it to be a constructive conversation
Yes.
where you have the information, you have the numbers. Because I mean, even in our scenario, sometimes like Jess is throwing ideas at me and stuff like that, and
Always.
we're in walking, and I'm like, Jess, I can't process it that way when I'm like trying to make my breakfast.
His favorite is when I do it right before he's about to fall asleep, and my mind is like wide awake and racing. And he's like, are you kidding me right now?
So I'm like, make a note, and we can talk about it during our money meeting.
Yeah, have a shared note. We have a ton of shared notes, and that is a great way to like brain dump what's top of mind for you, but it doesn't actually have to be talked about right in this moment. You don't want to forget the things that, you're thinking about, and you do want to bring them up during the next money date. So have a shared note, and then you both can put those things in there. And then more importantly, you can prepare to have answers. Like if there's something you need to do or you need to look into for your money date, to like come prepared, then you have time to do that. So that way, when you actually meet, you have the answers ready,
And I
right?
would say this next one is huge. And I would say if your relationship, in a heterosexual relationship is like anything like ours, sometimes the men tend to be on the receiving end a little bit more.
Sure.
So I would say this is huge for men. Like if you're on the receiving end, sometimes take a breather and don't take it personal
Mm,
and try to really understand what it is specifically your spouse is trying to get at, your partner is trying to get at. Because I would say I'm a kind of more of an even keel when it comes to emotional standpoint in comparison to Jess. And so, and also she carries a lot more of the emotional baggage as the mom, and you moms out there know that. And for example, when she was talking about the stress of having $100,000 and like what I didn't take it personal or anything like that, or like she was attacking me, I was like, what specifically are we looking to address here?
hmm.
And sometimes you have to be able to just realize that maybe it's not about you, it's about a specific fear or emotion that she's having. And you have to be calm enough to understand it's not about you and talk through it with her to find out specifically what it is and how you guys can put a plan in place and improve it.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's a really great call out. The other thing that I would say, and I know that we're at an advantage because of what you do, just naturally who we are, and then the fact that we have a money podcast and we talk about money all the time. But I think if you can work to get to a place where you can comfortably discuss money, even the harder topics, right? Of like, ooh, we went over our budget, or, maybe we don't get an appetizer at dinner tonight, whatever it is, right? If you can have those kind of one off quick conversations regularly, it makes the bigger money dates not feel big, right?
Yes.
Because I think, especially for maybe those of you that are listening, where you're like, well, I've never had a money date with my partner, or we don't have the visibility that we need, or I was caught off guard by this huge credit card bill that I didn't know existed, or whatever. Like, people have big stories, right? Like, if you can get to a point where you can have just super basic money conversations very casually, it will make the bigger sit down planning type conversations feel less daunting,
Yeah.
don't you think?
Oh, 100%. Because you also, it's, I guess the best analogy I could think of is like it's a muscle and you're starting
Yeah,
to work it out.
it's so
And
true.
obviously, it's going to be like, if you haven't worked out before and you're, doing a workout, your muscles going to be really sore the first time because you're
Mhm.
not used to using them in that way. But
Yep.
as you do it more and more, you get more accustomed to that feeling and it's not as painful in between workouts.
Right. And the more you're having the conversation, hopefully the
You
more
get
you're.
stronger at,
Exactly. Yeah. So then you're having better conversations, you're resolving things more quickly, you're putting plans in place that you're actually sticking to. Like, it's going to have that same kind of snowball, that positive snowball effect of, all right, we talked about money, it wasn't a big deal. We put a quick plan in place and we're good.
yes,
So, um but I think the dream framework, again, specifically, right? Diving into your past, reflecting on how it's showing up for you currently, then engaging with your partner on, like, what did you learn, and exchanging that information, putting a plan in place. So acting on, what are the goals? Are you increasing savings, investments, reducing debt? Are you trying to, save for a down payment on a house? Whatever it is, like, you have to put a plan in place, and then you have to manage that plan, because our money is constantly changing. And as we've said in multiple episodes, planning is a verb, right? It is an action that you take continuously. So we want you to have good money conversations. We want you to feel confident having these money conversations. We don't want it to be stressful, intimidating. We don't want you to be fearful about having them. And we wanted to share that, like, we still have those conversations. I had my freak out when we pulled the layers back. It was, I'm in a volatile industry for work and I want more security in our bank account, our liquid bank account, right? And I'm glad that Brandon brought me back and he kind of helped me peel off those layers. But we want you to be able to do the same, because when you're arguing about the Target bill or you're spending too much money at Starbucks, it's not about the Starbucks. What is it really about? So that's what we want you to get to. Like, get to the root, have the conversations, approach each other with love and respect and empathy. And just remember, it's also okay to take a break,
yes,
right? Like, take a break. I need to take a step away. I need to take a quick walk. I need to go, drink an energy drink, whatever it might be. It's okay to walk away respectfully and to start the conversation again at a different time. But have the conversation. Don't shy away from it. And don't assume that you know what your partner is thinking. Be honest. Did I miss anything?
no, I think you got it all.
Okay, perfect. Well, we appreciate you being with us as always. If you have not taken the time to leave us a 5-star rating and a written review, please do that. We read them, we love them. It helps get the podcast in front of other people.
It's free.
It's free. So little in life is free right now, but leaving a review is free, and it is so meaningful to us and any other podcast that you're listening to, honestly. So it helps the algorithm put our podcast in front of other people that need this information. So, as always, we will talk to you next Wednesday, and thank you for tuning in.
Sugar Daddy Podcast, yo. Learn how to make them pockets grow. Financial freedom's where we go. Smart investments, money.